Oh, okay. So it's on here. Okay, so hold on, just give me a second. What is that?
What? Is it on live?
Yes, it's on live now. So it's a little delayed, I believe.
Okay.
So
Like the picture, my voice isn't delayed, right?
no, I don't think the picture is delayed either. Once we actually start recording, I'll have to learn better. But since this is our trial run, we'll go ahead and yes, it's on live now. All right, so let's see. You open it up, okay? Watching a live. See that? I don't really want to watch a live. I want to. Kiki, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll get started. I'm not expert, but this is my first time, so I'll try to make sure that I'm doing this correctly, and we'll see what happens. I'm not exactly sure where my video went. So weird.
I can still see you.
I can't see you though in my in the actual oh, here it is. That's probably why. Oh yeah. Hold on a second. Let me see. That's why. Okay, I figured it out.
Okay.
All right, I got it back. All right, so now I need to share it again. Hold on a second. Sorry. We're getting there. We're getting there. This is trial number 1. So let me share. I think I need to open it here. Okay. Hopefully this works. All right. So I'm Tracy with Walking with Wisdom, and today is my first peer session. So the way peer sessions go are young people that I've worked with in the past or who are interested in just talking about, sharing their opinions on different things that are important to them. They will be able to come on and do a live session with me. And whoever's watching gets to ask questions and kind of engage back and forth. So I think that it's important for especially us adults to hear their voice. And that's what, with my coaching business, that's really what I'm interested in doing. It's not about me just telling them what to do. It's really about hearing, their heart and their desires and their needs. So I have with me my first guest, Miss Kiki. Kiki is my inspiration for Walking with Wisdom. When she was younger, she was going through some things herself, and it definitely prompted me to do some research and find out different ways of helping her. And I had always enjoyed working with young people, but becoming a life coach was something that I hadn't really thought of. I thought of teaching, and I worked with kids, and but I always provided mentorship. I was already coaching, and I just didn't realize that's what I was doing. So I have Kiki here, and she's gonna tell us a little bit about herself.
Hi, my name is Kiki. I am 16. I'm going into my junior year of high school next week, actually. Um, I have been, I would think, I don't really remember how old I was when I got diagnosed. But I've not like fully overcome it, but I've been learning how to live with it and how to cope with the things that I go through on a daily basis. So that's what I'm here to talk about.
And we apologize. This is the first time that we're attempting to do one of these, so Kiki was gracious enough to assist me with this. But I think there's a little bit of a delay. I'm not sure if it's viewed by anybody that's watching. So, but we're just gonna go ahead and get started. So, like you were saying, Kiki, anxiety is something that you continue to deal with. And, you know, what is it that, I was sharing last week about that anxiety is not something that people can just get over. Can you speak on that? Can you speak as to why that's not necessarily the answer? You know, when you have somebody who's going through anxiety, to tell them, well, you just need to get over it. You just need to shake it off. You need to let it go. You know, what does that sound like, you know, to someone who is dealing with anxiety, and what would be a better way to address that, in your opinion?
Well, I know for me, when I hear just get over it, it's kind of an immediate shutdown. Like you don't really care about how I feel, because everybody gets nervous. Everybody gets some sort of anxiety at some point in your life. You're going to, but when you're diagnosed with it, it's different because it's something that's there every day, and it's something that hinders you from doing even things that you enjoy doing or things that you want to do. So I feel like when somebody is going through and they're saying, I have a lot of anxiety about the situation, I think what's best is to try and work with them through it. You don't want to just immediately shut them down, but if it's something they have to do, it's something that they have to push through, you want to be encouraging and tell them, like, I understand that this is hard for you. Is there any way that we can make this easier? Is there any way that, you know, maybe or if there's an alternative way to do it so that they are not so uncomfortable with it? I think that is the best response personally. I don't know for everybody. I feel like everybody is different, and there's so many different types of anxiety, so many different types of mental illness in general, but anxiety is just the umbrella term for everything that goes under it. So it honestly depends on the situation, depends on what they're going through. But I think honestly, the best thing you can do for somebody is just be there for them.
Okay, I like that point. I like what you said, just being there for them. I wanted to comment on something you said, that there's not just one type of anxiety. What can you talk about how anxiety looks differently on people? I think that and I actually have a list here of some things, but I wanted to know, what you would identify, because I think that sometimes, especially in school, I think that, unfortunately, not a lot of people are trained on exactly what those types of things look like, what mental illnesses look like. And I think that's a scary word for a lot of people, especially adults. Mental illness, it sounds so heavy, but you know, it's something that needs to be not, you know, accepted, and not, and it needs to not, people need to not be in denial about it, because if you're in denial, then you can't really make any changes. So what does anxiety look like, you know?
Well, I think uh, I'm just gonna go from like personal experience, because I have also, I have friends who have anxiety and have been diagnosed with it, but different types. So for me, mine is social anxiety. I
Okay.
have it, I have I think two types was on my diagnosis, was generalized anxiety and social anxiety. Um,
What does social anxiety look like, and how could it affect you at school?
it's very hard to make friends. It's hard to talk to teachers. I feel like a lot of kids are intimidated by teachers anyway,
Okay.
but on top of having the social anxiety, it makes it hard to ask for help. It makes it hard to ask for questions when, I know in my brain, I know in my head that it's going to benefit me, but and that's kind of what anxiety is. It's not like we don't know that, this could benefit me. I probably should do this. I need to do this, but there's so much fear that is behind it that we just don't do it. And so, I struggled a lot with being able to go and ask for help. And so I had to find my own way of doing it, which was I would usually ask after class. I wouldn't even ask during class. I would wait till everybody else was gone, and I talk to the teacher and say, I just didn't really understand this part, or could I come back some other time? Because, sometimes they have like break periods.
Right.
Um, so I feel like it's also important for teachers to be understanding of the fact that not a lot of kids are going to want to speak up in class, or like even being called on in class. Like I never really raised my hand. Um, if they ask a question, I wouldn't raise my hand. But I feel like teachers call on the students more who don't raise their hand. And so it was always hard because it was like, it wasn't that I didn't know the answer. It was just, I didn't want to say it. I didn't want to have the attention drawn on me. And so I feel like, that should be something that teachers understand, is that if the student's not comfortable being called on, don't do it.
Yeah, there is a reason underneath.
Yeah.
So for that, you know, with that, sometimes, so then a teacher has to figure out who's just not being engaged, and who, you know, and who may be struggling with some underlying, um, other underlying issue as to why they're seemingly not engaged. So, you know, that may be something that in the moment is difficult for them to separate or to diagnose. So have you experienced any teachers who you think did that successfully, and what ways did they engage you without making you feel, without making you, you know, have that anxiety um come out?
Um,
You
I
have
think
an
like
experience maybe?
whole class activities, like a lot of times, a few of my teachers actually, we would play Kahoot before a test instead of like going through, and they would make their own Kahoot and we would just do it was basically like all the test answers. And nobody had to raise their hand because everybody was answering it from their phone or their laptop, because the schools provided laptops. And so that was easier. Even like doing many projects in class, I guess, like not stuff
That's
that's
single
like
with somebody else, single
mm-hmm,
someone out. Yeah.
yeah. Um, I think those would be like the two biggest things. I did have a lot of teachers who just if they didn't see a student raising their hand, they wouldn't call on them, and they would really only call on the students who were actually raising their hand, or they could actually tell we're not paying attention.
Okay.
So I think those would be the two big things, just including the whole class and not singling one person out.
Okay. Right. And so we were talking about, you were saying you had, dealt with generalized and the social, and you talked about how the social can affect you at school. That also affects you at home, obviously. Not really wanting to be engaged with others in general. It affects you with your friends too, where you have those times of where you just kind of rather just be alone. Now, it's okay to be alone. It's okay to not want to be engaged. But when do you feel that it's not okay? At what point, does your radar go off? Because now you have a radar that kind of goes off, right? That you realize you're getting into a mood or a mode or something.
Mm-hmm. I would say that for me, how I distinct it is like, it's actually because, I do have a social battery anyway, because I'm just a more introverted person, but it's like at those times where it's completely ran out. Like, I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to even get out of bed. Like, I don't want to come out of my room. I think at that point, it's like, okay, I think that, this is not just me being an introvert. This is me not being healthy with my alone time. And I think the way um, I kind of have to push myself to even just coming out of my room and sitting on the couch, like, is something that helps me like get out of that mood, even if I'm not talking to anybody. Um, I think that's what helps a lot, and it's kind of hard because um, like the friends I have currently, we don't really talk that much anyway,
Okay.
and so I don't really like go to my friends when I'm feeling that way. I more so I'll do something with my siblings, or I'll just be out where the people are, and I think that helps me to be like, I can't close in on myself, because I catch myself doing it sometimes, and I'm like, I'm gonna end up just staying in this place, and that's not a good thing.
So obviously I'm your mom,
Mhm.
but what, what can you say to parents who may have a young person who's not at the point that you're at yet, where I mean, every once in a while I come and I, will intervene, but you definitely have come to a point where you kind of can you self check. So what advice can you give a parent whose child is not at that point yet, and not really communicating what is a positive way, an effective way for them to kind of reach out and connect with their teenager um, in that way? What helped you? Because there was a time where you didn't communicate.
Right. I think the biggest thing is, one, not forcing them, like, not, because they do, you do want them to come out at some point, but I found it that, usually even when I wasn't self-checking, you would give me my space, you would give me my time, and then once that time span was up, you would, I think, asking, like, hey, is everything all right? Maybe a conversation will pull them out of it. Just talking to you, making yourself available to hearing what they have to say as well. Not, asking them what's wrong and then criticizing everything. You have to listen and understand, even if it's not something that you go through. Um, and then doing something that they like with them. Like, if I don't know, I'm trying to think of like an example, but just if
Like
they
going on walks, that's something you like to do.
mhm, going on walks, even just like watching a movie, listening to music with them, I don't know, cooking with them,
Mhm.
just something that they like to do once they've, come out, because, we're not going to stay hidden away forever. But at that point, when they do come out, I feel like also not making a huge spiel about it, because then it just makes me want to run back to my room. So just not pointing out the fact, but, being like, oh, do you want to do this? Blah, 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 blah. We're going to go do this. Making sure to include them in things as well. I know that's how that helped me. So I think that those things.
Okay. Um, I'm gonna look at my list here real quick, and ask you a few things. So, especially since we're getting back into school, you talked about how social anxiety affects you in school. I think that maybe this is a general anxiety because it doesn't only affect you at school, but one was setting high expectations. Is that something you ever, um, that you experience? And what do you feel like you know how to work through that now, or is it something you still struggle with? Um, Setting high expectations for yourself and then you know, trying to commit to those expectations.
Mm, yeah, I think I found that commitment was like a big thing that was kind of a issue for me. Just finding something to stay committed to, and even if I really liked it, at some point it would burn out, and I just didn't want to do it anymore. Um, so I think that setting high expectations of yourself, you expect something, not even just of yourself or of a situation or of an experience. You expect something to happen this way, and when it doesn't, you kind of just immediately want to pull out of it. But I found that going into things with a more open perspective, like not expecting everything to be just this one way,
Mm-hmm.
always helps. Not overthinking, because that's something that I used to do too, was overthink all the possible outcomes that could happen, to the point where it would scare me away from doing it. And so, not thinking too much about it either way, not thinking about too much about how it's going to turn out, not thinking too much about if it turns out bad or if it turns out good. Just going to things and being like, either way, if this goes good or this goes bad, I had the experience. And I think what's gotten me through even everything, like not just anxiety, but everything else that I've gone through, is just, I tell myself that one day what I've gone through is going to help somebody else. I'll be able to share it with a friend, or if or when I have kids, I'll be able to tell my kids. So I think that that's always pushed me through things, like getting these experiences so that I have something more to offer to other people.
Right. Okay. Well, we're winding down. Again, we're just talking about living through anxiety, living with anxiety with my guest, my lovely guest, Kiki. Um, you know, for those that are coming that may come back and watch this, I just want to say, especially to the adults that might view this, that anxiety is again not something that someone can necessarily just get over, or you just got to learn to deal with it. Those are not words that are should be used to try to encourage or motivate somebody to act differently, especially if there's somebody that's struggling with anxiety. um, like Kiki was saying, listening, being an ear, engaging them in things that they like, um, allowing them to have their space, and then also including them, purposefully including them in things, not giving up, asking, hey, would you like to? And even if you get that no, waiting and then coming back. And so just being persistent with them, but not suffocating. And I think it's just important to understand that anxiety is something that all people go through, just like Kiki said, everyone experiences it in some way or form. Anxiety is normal, nervousness is normal. What's not normal is when it causes you to not be able to function in society, and it cuts you off from society. But people do live through or with anxiety. They learn how to navigate that world. They learn how to keep their atmosphere healthy. They learn how to give themselves space. And so it's not something that necessarily goes away. It's something that you learn. This is this is this is part of my personality. It is something that I may struggle with. I personally I'm better at it now, but I used to be very bad at procrastination. And it's just something I had to teach myself to do differently, a way to behave differently. What were you saying, Kiki?
No, I was saying me too to that one.
Right. Yeah, and it has to do with, feeling it could, be a feeling of anxiety, wanting to just put it on the back burner so you don't really have to deal with it, and until you absolutely have to deal with it. So unfortunately, I'm not like I said, this is our first peer session, and I am not sure how to reply to comments or see comments. I'm gonna have to do a little bit more investigation. I'm thankful to Kiki for being my co-host. If you're interested in being a peer and doing a peer session with me, that is for young adults or young adults, well, young people, and as young as 13. I mean, I don't really have a limit. If you're a young person and you're interested in coming on and doing a session with me, I have lots of topics to discuss, and you can pick the topic that you want to talk about. Maybe you have something that I don't even have on my list, and we'll go live and we'll talk about it. And I want to hear your thoughts, and I want to hear your heart, and I want you to be able to share that so that us adults, older people, can understand better how to communicate and to interact and engage with young people, because I believe that it's important that young people are respected, number one. I think often, their youth, they're told, well, you're young and you don't know, but they have a lot of insight. I believe that young people have a lot of insight, and that if we could find the space to listen, that we would be enlightened in some great ways. So if you're interested in doing a peer session with me, you can put it in the comments. If you know of a young person who you think you would like to nominate for a peer session, also go ahead and comment. You can send me a private message, and if you're interested in a free consultation, you can go to wisdomihn.com. I will add that in the comments, and you can go ahead and schedule a free consultation with me. If you are a parent or a teacher or a school counselor or a principal and you would like to do a needs assessment, basically it's almost the same as a peer session, but this is something that you're going to bring to, we're going to kind of discuss maybe an issue that you find that you have with young people. So say maybe it's communicating better with teens or communicating better with your child. And we'll discuss what that, what those things are that you're coming up against. And I just lost my train of thought. We'll discuss those things that you're coming up against. I feel like a lot of parents have the same questions, especially now we're all going back to school. Some of us are going back to work. We're home. Some of us are going back to school. Things are in the air as far as like going back to school on campus or staying home virtually. So there's a lot of, mental and emotional stress that comes with all of that. So for parents, guardians, or teachers, administrators, if you want to do a needs assessment and just kind of talk about some of the concerns that you might have for these younger people that you're going to be dealing with and teaching and working with, I would love to schedule one of those, and we'll again be live and everybody can talk in the comments. So again, next time I'll make sure I know how to be able to read the comments and discuss with everybody. But I thank everybody for watching, and I hope you guys all have a great night. Thank you again, Kiki, for being my guest.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
All right, everybody. Have a great night. Bye bye.